Good evening. This is Political Forum for Wednesday, June 10th, 2015. We welcome today as our very special guest, Alderman John Arena from Chicago's 45th Ward. Welcome back to Political Forum.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm Rod Joy, a board member here at CAN TV. Political Forum is a live, interactive call-in program that's designed to connect you directly with your elected officials. Over the next 25 minutes or so, we hope you have an opportunity to learn more about Alderman Arena and his views on some of the most urgent challenges and opportunities facing the city. Above all, the program is about cultivating a strong sense of civic engagement in Chicago. Your voice, your views are a big part of the program. We invite your questions and comments for Alderman Arena. You can join us and hop into the conversation. We're at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. Alderman, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Rock. Glad to be here.
For those of you who may be meeting the Alderman for the first time, can you tell people about the 45th Ward?
Sure. It's on the northwest side, right where the Kennedy and the Eden split, just west of there. It includes neighborhoods like Independence Park, Old Irving Park, Jefferson Park, Portage Park, and Gladstone Park.
Great. And for people who are meeting you for the first time tonight, what motivated you to get involved in public life? You know, usually there's such a negative stereotype with Chicago politicians. What inspired you to get involved in public life here in the city?
Well, maybe that description of Chicago politicians, that we needed some new blood in the city council. I was very active in my community, a small business owner on the northwest side, and just saw an opportunity to serve in a different way than I had been in the past. So I'm very excited and honored to have earned a second term.
And congratulations on your re-election victory. I mentioned the Beyonce song, "I'm a Survivor." Every time I hear that song on the radio, I think about you, Alderman Arena.
Thanks. Yeah, we feel like we went through a little bit of test of fire there. It was a tough campaign, and but we had a great dialogue. We had a lot of great candidates in the race, and I think that that's a very important aspect of this, is that people are running for these seats, and that we are challenging the sitting officials to make sure that we're doing the best job we can.
Now, the Progressive Caucus of the City Council was a winner, some would say, as a result of the most recent elections. Talk to us a little bit about the Progressive Caucus and the dynamics of the caucus now for the city.
Well, we've grown. So we went from 8 aldermen. Bob Fioretti is no longer on the City Council, so we actually gained to 11. So we had some great wins across the city, and some really young, energetic minds are on the part of the caucus now. They've already stepped up and starting, moving the dialogue forward on how do we address the social challenges that we have, the financial challenges that we have, and doing it in a progressive way that kind of looks at municipal government in a different way. And the exciting part of this is that there was a very national dialogue during the campaigns and the mayoral election and the municipal elections about progressive politics and progressive policies that we can implement here in Chicago. And so there's a lot of engagement with other cities within the Progressive Caucus that really has helped us shape our priorities and bring those to the front on the City Council dialogue.
And one of the more progressive initiatives in the City Council, which I think is now in its third year, is this notion of participatory budgeting, where constituents have a say in how aldermanic dollars, I think $1.2 million or so, are divvied up for ward activities. Talk a little bit about participatory budgeting.
Sure. So this is the third year that the 45th Ward has used that to manage what they call the menu money. And this is infrastructure money that goes towards streets, road repairs, lighting, but it can also go to anything that's intended as a long-term investment for the city. So we ask the residents to come forward and talk to us about how do they want to see that money spent. And we start with asking them, tell us what percentage of that $1 million you want to go towards streets and curbs and gutters. And we've averaged over the 3 years about 55%, and that leaves about $450,000 to do projects. This year, one of the top vote getters was bike lanes on Milwaukee Avenue from Addison all the way up to Lawrence Avenue. And new trees. Last year, the top vote getter was 450 new trees. So it's really engaging the population in what how does municipal finance work, how we can spend certain dollars versus other dollars. These are things that have to go to fixed improvements as opposed to programming. So it's educating and involving the community again in how do their cities work, how do their budgets work, and we're getting from them what are the priorities. And I think that's an important aspect of the program.
This is Political Forum, a live interactive call-in program. Our guest tonight is Alderman John Arena from Chicago's 45th Ward. We invite you to flex your activism muscles and call in with your questions and comments. The alderman's ready to respond. We're at 312-738-1060. I think we have a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, good evening. I have a question concerning the Chicago casino. It's being floated that the casino would help possibly pay police and fire pensions. I know that's a big issue in trying to knock down those payments. So is that the answer?
Well, I think it's part of the answer. We haven't seen the full structure of what's being negotiated in Springfield directly. We haven't seen the language. The overview has been that it pushes some of the payments down the road a couple of years, provides some relief to this $600 million requirement that's due by 2016. I'm not a big fan of that because we've been pushing that down the road for years. It's what got us here. And then it says that for the first 5 years of the casino's existence, that all of that revenue goes towards paying into that fund. I'm not a big fan of casinos. It's regressive. We still don't know how much it's going to generate. So it's a very soft target in terms of being able to rely on revenue from a new casino when we have quite a saturation in the casino market in Chicago or in Illinois in general, in Indiana. We really want to make sure the oversight is there. That's something that's a big concern to me, that if it's a city-owned casino, does the state still have oversight? We definitely have to have outside oversight because, as we know, these things can get mired in corruption, and we want to make sure we avoid that from the beginning as opposed to finding out about it later on in the process. So in summary, it's not a silver bullet. It's part of a picture of dealing with just massive budget shortfalls that we have that go well beyond the pension issues that we're dealing with right now.
Great. Thanks for getting us off to a great start with the first question around gaming. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, along the line, I guess, with budget shortfalls, I know the state is also facing, obviously serious pension problems and things like that. And I feel like those cuts that they're planning to make on the state level are starting to sort of, the impact of them is becoming more apparent locally. What do you think about that? And what can the city do anything to remedy? Because I know a lot of nonprofits, a lot of local organizations, rely on that state funding. That's really central to them.
Absolutely. The bigger dialogue that's going on about the state's issues with its budget is playing out very viscerally right now, and we're going to see this play out over the summer as there's negotiations between the leadership in the State House and the new governor. Everybody's talking about what we need to spend or what we need to cut, but they're not talking about how we're paying for anything. And it seems like on the governor's side, they're saying he's starting at zero and trying to build back up. And on the other side, they're saying, look, we have a budget, but we still won't talk about revenue. If we don't talk about revenue, we don't know what we can generate and how much money we'll actually have. And one of the things that was talked about a couple years back was a progressive income tax for the state. It would generate far more revenue than the flat tax that we have right now. We're only one of 10 states that still has a flat tax. Of those 10 states, I think we're third from the bottom in terms of the lowest tax rate at 3.75. So we are a very low tax state, and a flat tax is very regressive. Everybody pays the same tax. Federally, we have a progressive income tax. We need to start generating revenue from the high income earners. It would actually reduce taxes for folks in the mid and lower end of the income scale. And that would give them relief that they desperately need right now to deal with with keeping bread on their tables and the social problems that they're dealing with in the neighborhoods.
Great. First question was on gaming. Our second question was on the fiscal challenges of the city and state and revenue. And I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Hi. Congratulations on your re-election, Alderman.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask if you could give us a status report on our beautiful Portage Theater. and what's been happening. It gotten kind of crazy where the owner of the Congress bought the Portage Theater, and now he's got like an interest in the patio. So if you could just fill us in on what's going on.
You must live in the 45th Ward. That's a very
sure do.
very local issue.
Very, very local. But, you know, it's a great issue because the Portage Theater is a landmark, and literally we got the building landmarked early in my first term. I'm very proud of that because it is a landmark in terms of a pin in the map, if you will, for a history of Six Corners. It should be a destination that helps revitalize the Six Corners intersection. We fought it being taken over by a church, which should really hurt our economic development plan. The community came out very strong. Ultimately, the building was sold to a gentleman named Eddie Carranza, who formerly owned the Congress Theater. He had troubles there. He lost his liquor license. There was criminal activity. We've been monitoring very closely, you know, his activity here. Generally, it's been working okay, but we're keeping an eye on it. We want to make sure he's a good operator. The good news is that Six Corners in general is doing very well right now. We have new restaurants opening. 30 plus new businesses have opened in the last 4 years. New theater like Filament Theater, National Veterans Art Museum are right across the street from the Portage. Little places like Josie's Frozen Yogurt and Community have opened, and all of these things are getting great attention. And we have some large development projects that are happening just blocks away from the Portage Theater. All of these things are really great PR moments for us to talk about the revitalization of the area, and the arts, theater, live music, live theater has been a big part of that revitalization. So we'll keep an eye on Eddie. We'll make sure that he's working within the rules. So far, we've been working okay, but we'll keep a good eye on him.
This is Political Forum, a live interactive call-in program. Our guest tonight is Alderman John Arena from Chicago's 45th Ward. We invite you to join the conversation. The Alderman is waiting for your questions and your comments. We're at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. And just to piggyback on the last caller and the reference of the Portage Park Theater, you're really building a strong reputation as an elected official that understands, appreciates, and supports culture and the arts. And I know your wife is a big advocate and supporter of culture, and the arts are playing a really active role in the 45th Ward. And I wonder if you could say a few words about why that's a priority for you and some of the other initiatives that are underway.
Sure, and thanks for mentioning Jill. She sits on the Illinois Arts Council and has really enjoyed that experience working with some of the players there, Sheila Madigan and others. And what we see is, and professionally, before I became an alderman, I had a marketing and design company, so we were engaged with creative activity in general. And I always knew that, you know, the arts is a $6 billion economic driver nationally. We just need a little slice of that economic pie on the Northwest Side or in our neighborhoods, and making sure that we're giving people a casual association with the arts. I was always feeling like the arts was something that happened somewhere else. It happened downtown or in large theaters. We wanted to make sure that we were cultivating the culture that's right in our neighborhoods. And what I found very quickly when I first came into office is that it's rich. It's rich across the city. This is not something that's unique to the 45th Ward or the Northwest Side. And we started a non-for-profit called Arts Alive Chicago. It was started as Arts Alive 45 and quickly changed its name to Arts Alive Chicago because we were engaging with so many small and medium-sized arts groups in the neighborhoods around Chicago, engaging with the commissioner and DCASE, or Department of Cultural Affairs, to bring the attention and of that department out to the neighborhoods. And it's been a big part of the economic success that we've had on the Northwest Side and in 45 and Jefferson Park and in Portage Park. And having those arts centers there is really like, it's amazing how people talk about how proud they are that they're in their neighborhood, that we have the Ed Paschke Museum in Jefferson Park, and that we have the National Veterans Art Museum in Portage Park. So it really is a snowball that starts rolling on its own once you get it moving and people start, you know, coming out and enjoying their own neighborhoods in a new way.
Let's talk transportation for a
Yeah,
few minutes. I
sure.
think you've been really active around O'Hare Airport and noise-related issues with O'Hare Airport. What's the latest with O'Hare?
Yeah, it's a big challenge right now because we've been in this plan for the O'Hare build-out or O'Hare modernization plan has existed since the mid-2000s when it kind of was vetted and started out. But the world is very different. The world of transportation and air travel is very different now after 9/11, after the contraction of the airline industry and usage. The target for the O'Hare modernization plan was 1.2 million operations a year, and we have been very flat at about 850,000 operations over the last 4 to 5 years. So the airlines are rethinking what is air travel going to be look like, and with this build out, we've seen an a high increase in noise that's generated by the frequency of the flights that go over at certain periods. So recently, at the state level, Rob Martwick, State Representative Rob Martwick, and State Senator John Mulrow got legislation passed and a joint resolution passed that addresses this issue, creates a series of meetings between the Fair Coalition and the administration and elected officials to sit down and talk about working solutions to the problem. We don't have all the answers yet, but talking about it is the first step to getting some solutions and some relief to the folks on the Northwest side.
This is Political Forum, a live interactive call-in program. Our guest tonight is Alderman John Arena from Chicago's 45th Ward. I think we have another caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks for taking my call. First off, congratulations, Alderman, on your re-election. I just wanted to know, are there any family-friendly festivities in the neighborhood, such as movies in the park, and where can I find that information?
Oh, man,
Sure.
That's such a nice underhand pitch. He must be in the 45th
That's
Ward,
right.
too.
That's a softball. You mentioned movies in the parks. We have probably 20 different movies in the parks around over the course of the summer, just in the ward alone. There you can go to the Chicago Park District website and or just Google movies in the parks. They are thick across the entire city, but every park within the 45th Ward is going to have at least one. We're really looking forward to that schedule. It's already up and out there, so you can look at that. Coming up on Father's Day weekend, we have the Six Corners Barbecue Fest. It's expanding this year in terms of its size. We had over 11,000 people come out last year. We're looking for those numbers to increase. We have some great music, from country to blues to rock and roll. Of course, amazing food from local and regional vendors. Later in the summer, at the end of July, we have Jeff Park Arts and Music Festival, which is in Jefferson Park, right off the Blue Line. We encourage you to come out and experience more music right in a great park setting on the Northwest side. And there's some other small festivals like Fringe Fest, which will be around Labor Day, overlapping with Taste of Polonia, which is centered around the Copernicus Center at Lawrence and Milwaukee Avenue. So we're going to have a lot of activity over the course of the summer, and we're looking forward to it.
We have about 5 or 6 minutes left in our program today, and I know there's a long list of topics that still remain. You were involved in an effort to support workers and workers' rights in Chicago, and I think the idea behind the measure was to require employers to provide at least 5 sick days. Is that right?
Yes.
What's the latest on that ordinance?
So we've I think the dialogue in the last council has spurred the mayor to act on this issue. We had a great movement between the unions and activist groups in Chicago to get the minimum wage established at $13 by 2019. We were shooting for 15. We're still going to keep pushing for improving that. That's going to get more money into our local economies. The other side of this conversation has created the mayor's working group, a working families working group, which includes aldermen, including Tony Folks from the Progressive Caucus and other activist leaders, to make sure that hourly workers have access to earned sick time. They would earn it over time, just like salaried employees do. And it's a health issue. It's a fairness issue. It's an issue that'll help support families who are having to choose between sending their kids to school sick, themselves going to work sick, as opposed to taking care of themselves. Nationally, we know that better healthcare choices like this helps reduce healthcare costs, and these are the kind of costs that we end up paying for when people go to the emergency room after they don't have time to take care of things before they become a big problem. So I'm excited to be working on this with the Progressive Caucus. It's heavily supported. There was a referendum on the last election ballot in February. 85% of the population supports implementing this. New York, LA, I think over 18 cities and 3 states in the nation already have this. It's a good progressive issue, and it supports working families.
Another measure that was on the local ballot was around the school board. Exactly. And there have been a lot of changes, a shakeup at the Chicago Public Schools board. Where are you at on our schools, and do you think the schools will remain solvent in the year ahead?
Well, the CPS budget is separate from the city budget, and the challenges that we have in the city budget are massive, and we have an equally big problem at the CPS side. The leadership is a big problem. The fact that Barbara Bird Bennett has left under a cloud of investigation, $20 million contract given out without bid. We're being told by principals that the training was useless to them. It wasn't Chicago-centric. It wasn't a Chicago company. This is the kind of thing, and the reason why the push for an elected school board was so strong over the course of the last 4 years and will continue to be over the next 4. We need good oversight and we need accountability from the school board, or we're going to continue to see these kind of poor decisions made. And this is money, taxpayer money. 50% of your property tax bill goes to schools in Chicago. And that money needs to be spent well, and there needs to be accountability if the money is spent poorly. So the decisions that have been made in the past have led us to this place. Doing the same thing, continuing the same process and the same procedures with a bunch of folks that just say yes to what's put in front of them isn't going to get us a better resolution. So I'm going to continue to fight for this. I truly believe in it. We have to work with the state at the state level to make it happen. But we're the only school district in Illinois that has a non-elected school board. So there's some legal options that we're looking at, working with some local attorneys, and we're going to create a strategy around this to continue to move the ball on it.
You mentioned a group of people who just say yes, and I think there's
and I'm probably part of it.
There's been this perception that the city council as a whole is simply a rubber stamp for the mayor, and I think Dick Simpson did a big study on the voting patterns in the city council, and you were one of 2 aldermen that voted against the mayor. 50%. I think you were 43%.
I was 43% with him, 57 against.
Do you embrace that idea of a rubber stamp for the council as a whole, and how do you see your role within the council?
The council absolutely has been a rubber stamp. The bonding authorities that we've been giving out that has kicked the can down the road, these issues on pensions, all of these things are things that are because nobody's reading what's put in front of them. None of the council members were asking hard questions. And the leadership, it's because of poor leadership within the council itself. The movement with the Progressive Caucus and the gains that we've made, seeing that a lot of aldermen that were aligning with the mayor too often were the ones that lost their seats, tells us that the population of Chicago is ready for this kind of reform within the council. I'm happy to be a leader in that, and I'm looking forward to challenging the administration to do the best job for the city of Chicago.
Alderman, thanks for being with us. CAN TV is television for the people and by the people, and we appreciate you being with us again. In order for our democracy to thrive, we need an informed and engaged citizenry. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for calling in, and we invite you to join us next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock for the next edition of Political Forum. Go Blackhawks.
Thank you. That's right. Let's go Blackhawks.